Welcome back to the final episode in this Illustrator Basics tutorial series. Today we're going to talk about hotkeys, the alignment tool, and creating your own workspace, along with a few resources that are useful for Illustrator. So first let's talk about hotkeys. I have a printable version inside the Illustrator tutorial file that you downloaded. It's labeled 18 hotkeys, and I have a PDF and PNG of it, so you can print that out and hang it up somewhere nearby so you have a reference for all the default hotkeys listed here. Now these are only a few of the hotkeys, but they're ones that you will probably be using a lot starting out. As you get more in depth, you may find that you need other hotkeys or that you need to assign hotkeys that quite don't exist. So to do that, you can go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and then this opens up a dialog panel that enables you to scroll down and you can see all the tools. Some of them aren't assigned anything, and you can assign a hotkey to it. You can open it up to different things, like there's the file commands. You can look at the window commands, so you could set a hotkey to open up specific windows, or you can go up here and search. So if you want to look for your export options, just type export in. Don't hit enter because it'll be like if you're hitting OK. And then you'll see all your different options that you have for exporting. Right now we only have hotkeys for export for screens, but we could set one for export as. So let's say we want to set this hotkey. All we have to do is type in the keys that we want it to be. So let's do Alt-Control-E. Now down here we have a dialog that pops up to warn us that there's a conflict between the one that we chose for the export as and a previous one. So we can go to the conflict if it wasn't already here, or we can undo it and try something different. I'm gonna go ahead and undo, and it'll reset my export for screens as Alt-Control-E. Now if you make changes to your keyboard shortcuts, you can save them by going here and pressing OK, or you can save a whole new key set file by going up here and clicking this button and renaming it. So if you wanted to have several different file versions, you can do that. I'm gonna hit OK, hit yes. Go ahead and open up 18align.ai and 18align2.ai. So the align tool is great. It helps you get even spacing and really polishing some of your work. So to use it, all you have to do is click and drag over a bunch of different objects, and you'll see the align tool open up in the properties panel. To get more options, you can click this and it'll open up more options for the align tool. But I don't want to have to keep clicking that, so I'm just going to go to Window and bring in the align tool, a separate align tool window. Just like that. Now down here in the bottom right, you can drop that down and it'll bring you some options for how you're going to align. You can align off your entire selection, so it'll take the selection and align to it. Or you can align off the artboard or align to a key object. To set a key object, all you have to do is select a bunch of objects and then click the one you want to be key. And then it'll put a thicker blue outline around it. So right now that's our key object. But we're going to work with align to selection for the minute. That should be your default one. So when you look at these align options, you'll notice that there's a line and some boxes. That line will be the base that everything aligns to or aligns off of when you click it. So here, this will align everything in the middle. So everything will align in the middle of the object. So if we had some elongated objects or some short objects and we selected them all, then it would align in the middle of those objects. We can align off the top or off the bottom. And then down here we can change the distribute spacing. So we can distribute spacing left and right. And since we have align selection selected, it distributes it based off the selection we have here. So if we wanted to move these objects in a little bit more and select them and realign left to right, it'll distribute between the left and right object that we have selected. If we move this one out further and redo it, it again moves the distribution. Now what would happen if we align to the left and we have all of our objects in a horizontal line? Well, they all line up on top of each other. But now since all the objects are right on top of each other, when you distribute the spacing left and right, it's not going to move because you don't have a right limit. So we could select all of them, change this to artboard, and then hit that distribute spacing, and now it distributes between the left and right limit of the artboard. If we selected a key object, so we select that middle one, and we want to distribute left and right of 0, it'll align them up so that they're all touching from left and right. And then we can just increase the space there a little bit or decrease it, and it moves it so that this is still in the center and everything aligns off of it. Now everything we talked about horizontally also applies vertically. So feel free to pause this video or come back to these selections and just practice with the align tool. It does take some getting used to. I know when I first started out, I used to end up like this a lot, with all of my objects stacked up on top of each other. So just take your time practicing that and getting it right. And remember, Control-Z is your friend when it comes to the align tool. While I have this align panel out, let's talk about creating your own workspace. Right now, we're using the Essentials workspace, which sets everything up like so. You can change the Essentials workplace by adding new windows and putting them wherever you want, or you can create your own by going to Windows, Workspace, New Workspace, and you can write a name. So I'm going to put Tutorial Workspace, hit enter, and that puts us in here. So if I wanted to add more windows to this panel, like say I wanted the align panel out here permanently, all I have to do is click and drag it, and you'll see these blue areas starting to highlight, and that'll show you where this goes. So right now, if I released it, the align tool would just become one of the tabs in this panel. If I pull it away, it'll become its own panel here in its own window. If I bring it back in and I go above them, then that will add that panel above this tabbed panel here. And I can always reference the align panel. You can bring in the swatches. If you always wanted to have your swatch panel open. You could even move panels around that are in here. So if you wanted your tool panel to sit on the right side with everything over here, you could do that. If you've made a monstrosity of a workspace, you can always go to Window, Workspace, Reset Tutorial Workspace, which would reset it back to where it was when I first created this. Or if you wanted to just get rid of it completely, change your workspace to something different like Essentials, and then go down to Manage Workspaces, select it, and click the delete key. You could also rename it or add more workspaces in here. Finally, before I go, I wanted to show you guys a couple resources that I use regularly when creating graphics. So here we have uigradients.com. When you first go here, it'll take you to a random gradient, but you could click here to see all the gradients that they have. You could narrow it down by color. So if you wanted to look at pink gradients, go back to showing all gradients again. And when it gives you a gradient, you can click it, and if you find a gradient that you like, so if I click Big Head, it'll show you the hex value of the left and right colors used to make this gradient. Another option is gradient.com. This one I like a little bit better than UI Gradients, although UI Gradients has better search functionality. This one, you can scroll down through and see a bunch of different ones, and all you have to do is hover over one of the color swatches and it'll give you the hex value. You can add colors to a gradient, so if I wanted to add white up here, or let's add red, so it goes from that pastel purple and blue to a deep red, and then you can even edit the subtlety and aggression of the gradients. To get the hex value, you can right click on these colors, and it'll give you the hex value and a slider that you can use to adjust it. So if I wanted to make a pastel green to this way a little more, right about there, and then it'll give you the hex value for that, and you can copy and paste it, or the RGB value. So these websites really come in handy when you're making gradients or backgrounds for your graphics. And sometimes I don't even use the colors I see here, I just get an idea of something that I'd like to see in my project by just scamming through here. Well, that's all I have for you in this episode, and that's all I have for you in this basic tutorial series. If you found this tutorial series helpful, please drop this video a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.